Hey folks, it's Brian with Mass Street Music. Today I'm super excited to share with you our latest collaboration with Mythos pedals, the 1347 Silicon Fuzz. The 1347 is a 2-transistor silicon fuzz. You can get big woolly tones out of it. It also cleans up really well with your guitar's volume. In addition, there's a really cool bias control on the inside that you can adjust so you can get gated sounds if you want, or kind of tweak it a little bit to get a little bit more gain. Zach has really good ears for making this kind of gear, and we're really proud of this pedal. We think you're going to really dig it.
Okay. Do you need to be close to this?
A little bit. Hey guys!
You know, years ago, this would have, well, this still terrifies me, by the way.
Me too. I'm not even playing. All right. Well, cool. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's going to be a fun time. Special thanks to Leeway Franks for catering tonight.
Give it up.
Yeah. Really good. They're just over at 9th and Iowa here in Lawrence if you want to go swing by and grab something from them. We got Zach from Mythos in town, and we're real excited about that. We've been playing Mythos pedals. We've had Mythos in the store since October 2019, I think. And
Yeah.
I think so. Or wait, no, before then.
Yeah.
Beginning of 2019.
Yeah.
You were here last time in October 2019. But yeah, since then we've had a couple exclusive pedals that we've come out with together. Zach's going to be featuring the whole lineup, some of the new stuff.
We got some other stuff over here we can add.
Yeah. And we're going to do some giveaways later, so keep on hold of your stubs. But yeah, let's welcome Zach.
All right. So, admittedly, I have no idea what I'm doing. But basically, I think what I have to do is just run through everything. Usually, I attempt to do that, and it goes really fast. So I'm going to try to take it slow and give you guys a little bit of information, as well as what I hope all the things that we make are supposed to do. So for all that can't see the board, I've got a smattering of things. And I'm going to start with the Mjolnir. That's the thing I was sound checking. So recently, we changed the Mjolnir to get rid of the charge pump because for whatever reason, people keep blowing it up. It's really a pain to fix. So we've ditched that. And what I've done is rework the Mjolnir to be a little more friendly for everybody, so you're not going to run the risk of blowing it up and releasing all the magic blue smoke that makes pedals work. So the Mjolnir, for those that don't know, is a clone. And how a clone works, it's a clone, excuse me, it's not a clone. Bill Finnegan makes the clone, I do not make the clone. How a clone works is the gain knob is a dual gained pot. So what that means is it's two knobs that work together. And how a clone works is it's got a clean blend and a normal traditional gain knob. And they work like this, where as you turn the gain knob up, the clean is blended out. But with the gain knob turned down, the clean is all the way up. So I've turned the gain all the way down. And so it should be a pretty transparent representation of what I have coming through the amp. Now, it does have a tone knob that's always working. So what you should hear is a relatively similar sound. Now I'm going to start to turn the gain up, and you should hear it. You should hear the clean start to be mixed out. Very loud circuit, so I'm compensating for that. All the juice it's got. And it should react to you as a player. That's the whole goal of this thing, is to be a unit that you can just leave on. You never have to turn it off if you don't want to. So. That's what the Mjolnir does. That is far and away one of the most popular circuits that we make. And it really covers a wide gamut of tone and takes pretty much any guitar. We'll mess with different guitars later. And gives you an honest representation of what it's supposed to do. Now, jumping to a different part of the board, one of the pedals we make for Mass Street is the 1347. Now, who of you guys have ever had a vintage styled or even just a normal fuzz face? Anybody? Okay. And they kind of get blown out, especially with like humbuckers. So that's something that Brian and I wanted to remove from that circuit. So what we landed on is a fuzz face style circuit that has a much smaller input cap. And what that means, if for a quick lesson, the input cap is like the bottleneck where all the guitar's information is condensed down to go into the circuit. The vintage fuzz face has this huge input cap that lets a lot of information through, and what happens is it just gets blown out. With a Strat or a Telecaster, that can be okay. But with this, it's too much. And when you fine-tune that, you can get it where it works for both things. But here's the 1347. At around 3 o'clock. So fuzz faces kind of sound better hitting a dirty thing. So I'm going to turn on the lead channel of the 2-Rock, then turn on the 1347. It's still going to do the cleanup thing. Whoa. And as you turn the fuzz knob up, it's going to add more treble and give you a little bit more character. That bridge pickup will bring all the spice back. But that's the pedal that Brian and I worked on, and it's like my attempt to remedy all the weirdness that you get from that style circuit. And there is noise, but that's to be expected because it's a fuzz, people. So, so everything's sounding a little dry. So why don't I turn on the Oracle? So the Oracle is an analog circuit. It's really hot up here. You guys hot? The Oracle is an analog bucket brigade delay, and it uses two 3205 chips, like the vintage chips that would be in a DM2. And what myself and the designer who came up with this tried to do was not clone anything outright, but deliver the sounds of all the vintage Japanese units that I like and he likes into a really simple, easy-to-use circuit. Now, the Oracle, it's three knobs, the on-off, and a tap. So I'll kind of run through some of the things that it does, because it has some weirdness. Thing. I'll put everything kind of at noon. About 600 milliseconds, which is the most delay time it's going to have. About half, so 300 or so. So here's max delay time. That thing. But it has a tap. And so what the tap allows you to do, I'm going to turn that feedback down, is push beyond what the chips are actually capable of. And what that does is you hear it, it's degrading, right? It's losing a lot of the information. But with the tap, if we go slower than that, it starts to really break down. And the cool thing about the Oracle is it does all the slapback things, and I'll show you that in a second. But when you're using the tap as kind of an effect in and of itself, you can do really crazy stuff if you start to oscillate, which is the funnest thing about an analog delay. Like, you guys like oscillation? Oh, what is he talking about? Slower. Here, it's starting to make noise because the chips are being stretched to their complete limit, right? But what you can do is if you max that feedback and start to get it to run away, it's starting to oscillate. It's going to get really loud for like a second. So you can do really crazy things. Making really terrible noises that have nothing to do with guitar playing, you can get this and be like, all your friends and family, they'll just clear out of the room. which is really. But for more traditional sounds, because someone was asking about country things, if you do a more traditional slap, which this does perfectly, it does that whole thing. It does all the stuff that you would expect a vintage Boss or Ibanez style unit to do, but it's true bypass. It has a tap out, and it's just way cooler than those things, if I'm being honest. But if you want to get more of a sort of thing, it does that really well, and also does a more a traditional sort of analog thing, because the feedback knob, when it's beyond noon, it's always on the cusp of running away, which I really like from some Japanese delays. But it won't. That sort of thing. But the Oracle has been a labor of love, and it's a real pain to build, but we love it. The only thing bad about it, and some of you guys might know, supply chains. The chips are getting hard to get, so if you like this, you might want to get one, because we only have so many chips, and it's a sad thing for all pedal builders, because one day these are not going to be made at all from anybody. So we're holding on for dear life. One other thing that we designed it to do was to play nice in front of an amp. You can run it in a loop, but in front of a dirty amp. So here's the Two Rocks lead channel. It's down in it. So it's not as overwhelming as some other delays, and we tried to fine-tune how the delay signal to dry signal was mixed. So yeah, that's the Oracle. I'll just leave it on as kind of some flavor, so we're got a little more space here. There we go. So I think next maybe we go to the Chupacabra, and for that, for those that follow me on Instagram, and some of the people who were here earlier got to hear a tale of me going to a Guitar Center and walking away with some weird oddities that were priced way too low. It is very exciting, much to my wife's chagrin. So we brought a bunch of the old art Chupacabras, and some things are going to be on sale later for all the people who are here. But the Chupacabra is my ZZ Top in a box. It is my attempt to encapsulate those first 5 records. And it's just a 2-knob thing. It's a CMOS circuit. Basically, it's a hex inverter. It's like a computer chip that's not made to make guitar noises, but it does. So it is kind of, with the gain all the way down, it's like a tweed thing. So if I'm just running into the clean side with a little bit of delay on, in all the way down. Some hairy edges, right? But as you turn it up, goes far beyond that. You can get all your ZZ Top top on, and I don't want to get a copyright strike or get the stream shut down. It's so hot in here, you guys. So that's about, that was like a third of the way up. Here's all the way. So it's pretty gnarly, but I was nervous if this guitar would clean up on me or not. So it's kind of doing it. And it's so hard to not play every ZZ Top riff I know. Let's see what. And then that's enough. That's enough. But that's the Chupacabra, and we're gonna have some with the old art because I need space on my shelves, guys. We're dying in Nashville. But the Chupacabra is a super fun pedal that I think people get nervous about it because they see there's no tone knob. It's all like here and here, which is kind of my philosophy. And I don't know, I really like it. So there's that. I want to change guitars again because why not, right? You guys have, do you like this? Yeah. Okay, everybody's like, yeah. Like, yeah, I don't know. This guy, so full of himself, all the way from Nashville. All right. So next, I'm going to play the Olympus. This is the other guitar I stole from Guitar Center somehow. Don't tell them. Don't go over there and say, you know that he just like got you guys. It's a 1965 Firebird 5 non-reverse. I don't think they knew what it was, which was great. Yeah. No. So the next pedal, which is a relatively new one, is the Olympus. Now the Olympus was a pedal that I made as part of what I called the Spartan series. And the Spartan series was a line of pedals that I built similar to how I made pedals when I first started, which was all like way too complicated and took way too much time to do. And I thought it would be a smart idea to introduce a line of pedals that were very complicated and took way too much time to build. So those are done, and we thought we would introduce it as part of the normal lineup and make it not complicated and easy to make. And it kind of blew our minds because for those that might not know my philosophy, it's not about, regarding how we build pedals, a lot of people will snicker or turn their nose up at surface mount, or is it hand wired or whatever. To me, if it sounds good, regardless of what's in there, it is good. And this is kind of proof of that because when Jeff and I and McKinley, who's back home, were prototyping this, we put this prototype next to the original, and we all said that one's better, and the other one has all the big mojo parts that are real expensive. And it just goes to show that if you do your time designing, it shouldn't matter what's on the board. But the Olympus is my take on the Clark Gainster, which is a very expensive, hard to get pedal, and it's pretty rare these days. So it's a really simple overdrive that kind of lives in this tweed realm. And a lot of people call it a Klon killer because it does kind of that mid-forward overdrive thing really well. So here's the bypass tone. Here's the Olympus. And that's with the gain turned to about 9 o'clock. As you bring the gain up, it has a presence control which interacts with the gain. So it gets a little darker. Here's the gain on noon. as I bring the gain, let's do it all the way up. Turn that presence up a little bit. You get this like big, fat, tweed-like thing. It cleans up really well. This guitar has really terrible pots. They're just on-off, so it doesn't clean up at all. But if you have a guitar that has working potentiometer, it will clean up and get really dynamic. I'll try to show with the little my pick, the weight of my picking. That's the Olympus. Am I going like, what time is it? 7:02. Oh man, I'm going so fast. But anyway, no, we'll save that. Jeffrey stole my thunder on JHS. Now he's here trying to run the show. My show. Anyway, Jeff's great. Next we'll go to the Argo. So the Argo is my attempt to recreate the prescription electronics COB, which is yet again another very expensive, hard to get pedal. And it is an octave fuzz, a clean boost, and a blend control. So you can blend in and out the amount of fuzz signal that the pedal has. So we're going to dime the fuzz. We'll turn the blend all the way up. So this is kind of like there's no blend at all. It's all the fuzz and octave sounds. And it's kind of gross, but in a musical way, right? Turn the blend down halfway. Weird by itself, but when you start using it with a drive pedal, like the Mjolnir here. A really cool thing about it is if we bring that blend all the way up, the fuzz knob, it doesn't control the octave at all. The octave is evergreen. It's never going away. So as we turn the fuzz control down, you'll hear the octave remain, and what you can do with that is now you have a blendable octave up effect, similar to a Hendrixy sort of Octavia effect. But we'll turn the fuzz, here's halfway. That's why I turn it all the way down. So now we're just getting the octave effect, and you can bring the volume up. Because it can get really loud, which a lot of those vintage fuzz octave units, they don't have the output to really hit an amp, but its own dedicated boost circuit. But with this, then you can stack it with an overdrive. Get that effect. And then you can blend that. So that is what the Argo does. In an attempt to capture that lightning in a bottle, I had a lot of people asking for just a simple octave up effect, and more specifically, Josh Smith said, could you make that like this big? And I said, okay, we'll try that. So I made the Argonaut, which for those might not be as nerdy as I am. The Argo was Jason and the Argonaut's ship. The Argonaut were the sailors on the ship, so that's where you don't care. But the Argonaut is not the same circuit cherry-picked out of the Argo. It's a different circuit that gives you a different effect. And what it does, it's a ring modulator sort of thing. So it doesn't just have to be played up above like the 7th fret. You can play the very bottom. Sounds really weird, right? But when you stack it, if we compare the Argo to that, you don't get that octave effect as much. It has no adjustment. It is what it is. And if we're doing something up here where the Argo would normally start reacting, back up. It's a different thing, but it kind of gives you the same feel, and it's something that you can hide on your board. Now, the last pedal here that is on this board, and we can pull some more because we have a stack, is the Susmeriosa, which if you haven't been on YouTube at all, then somehow you might have missed R.J. Ronquillo, who is a dear friend of mine and one of the best. He's one of the best guitar players I've ever met, and has a fantastic YouTube channel. And years ago, I think it was about 2019, he and I started talking about making a 2-in-1. He wanted a slap echo and an overdrive, and his family is from the Philippines, and there's a Filipino slang word that is Susmeriosa, which means Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and it's something that mothers yell at their children when they're being annoying or whatever. And he said, well, let's call it that and make it a 3-in-1. So the first one had sliders, and it was very complicated because, for those that don't know, potentiometer is like a normal, like in a guitar, has 3 lugs, right? And they're always the same order. Sliders, depending on what manufacturer you buy it from, they put the order everywhere. There's no consistency with slider potentiometers. So we made some. I ran out of sliders. My supplier ran out of sliders, and then I couldn't make any more. So we ditched that. The original had just a normal clean boost. I gave it a silicon treble boost at RJ's request. We coupled that with our Herculean overdrive, and we put the same echo. So RJ uses this as a slap echo all the time. The overdrive is just a nice boost, and then the treble booster can take it to a whole nother planet if you let it, if you guys are willing to suffer. Because we might clip the mic a little bit. I bring out the Novo for this one. So here's the echo, and that goes away. When pedals pop, sometimes it's a capacitor dissipating voltage. You just switch it on and off a lot, and you just annoy everybody around you. Eventually, it'll go away until it comes back, and then you have to do it again. There's little pips on here that this is RJ's echo. There's a big knob on here that is solely for the mix.
You got the work on still.
Huh?
You got the work on still.
Oh. Okay, that was better. Thank you. There it is. That's the echo. My guy. So Herculean, this is just the op amp. So a lot of people talk about clipping. Clipping is usually when, for most pedals, is when you put diodes either in a soft clipping arrangement where the edges of the wave are real soft, or a hard clipping arrangement where it's literally cutting it off at the top. And this, we decided to go with no clipping diodes, so everything that's happening is strictly in the op amp, which is loud, but it also is very dynamic and more amp-like, which is a really cheesy term to use, but it's kind of true. So with everything at noon, this may be very loud. It's a Herculean drive, which we discontinued. We're going to bring it back in a different way, but it's just a really natural. Push the drive and drop the level. It starts to really roar. But it really gets fun when you start to introduce the treble boost. Now, the treble boost has a three-way switch that goes treble, just like the classic Rangemaster thing, without being germanium. It's not germanium, it's silicon. Mid-forward or fat, which is super bassy, and you can use that to fine-tune to your guitar rig or just to sound you're chasing. So with the drive goosed and the treble boost at noon, in the treble mode, you should get a really pokey, Queen-esque sort of sound. That sort of thing. This is mid mode. Fat mode. So there's a lot of range of tones in there, but the fun part, when you use the level of the overdrive as a master volume, then you can use the treble boost and really slam it and get a lot of distortion. It's in treble mode. It's a little noisy, but it's rock and roll. Here's mid mode. And then fat mode. And that's not even getting into the EQ controls in the overdrive, so you can even push that further, roll the tone back, put the bass up. That same setting, really heavy. Definitely going to get a copyright strike on that. But you can do that whole thing. So it was really like a happy accident that we all stumbled upon at the shop, that this treble boost coupled with that drive, regardless of the noise, and again, it's dimed, could cover such a wide range of tones. And it really just works. But the coolest thing about it is, in addition to all that, if you like the treble boost or want to tweak it, you can. There's actually a gain that adjusts the overall gain of the transistor, which poor Jeff had to hand measure every single one of them. So he put in 2 days' work of just measuring every one to say, that one's 285. And there's also a bias adjustment. So if you want it to be more spitty or blown out or do a different tone, you can do that. And there's actually test points. So we can tell you approximately where to set the knobs, but if you want to mess with it and measure it, you can. If you have a multimeter and the inclination, you can do that. I think we could, let's test the AU79. It's right there. because we covered the 1347. So another pedal that we make for Mass Street is the AU79. So what this is it's a special version of the Golden Fleece, which is our one knob fuzz. Thank you, Jeffrey. What's that? Well, the AU79 is the periodic table for gold. So we're with a little block of gold here, but it cleans up really well and actually stacks really well with overdrives, more so than our normal Golden Fleece because it's a little less gain. So what we've got here, that pop again. Here's the gain, or sorry, it's not gain, it's volume on noon. Turn on the Olympus. The Olympus off. So that's another pedal that we only sell here at Mass Street. And of all the Golden Fleece, it's really like my favorite version of that circuit. But it stacks so well. If we stack with the Mjolnir set, a little bit more of a push sound. More of a blown out thing. As I turn the gain up, AU off. So that's really, I think, that's everything that we make that we sell in stores. Should we try the Airlane Drive?
Absolutely.
Hopefully, if I can break Dennis Fano's will, I will allow these to be in stores. I'm really hoping that I can just make him listen to me. I bet he's, it's fine. We'll figure it out. But the Airlane Drive, for those that don't know, is a collaboration between Novo Guitars and Mythos, because we actually rent from Novo. We're in the same space as them. Novo make these fantastic instruments right in Nashville, literally right next door to where we build all the pedals. And Matthew Timmons, Dennis Fano, and myself came up with this little 2-in-1. And it's got Suite 8, Suite 9, which is our respective suites in this industrial park. Our street address is Airlane Drive, which is pretty fitting. And these two controls are just gain. So internally, there's some master volumes if you want to adjust the output. But the two drive controls let you really cover a huge amount of tone, a huge range of sounds with ease. So the cool thing about the Airlane Drive is with the gain knobs, the more and even more, that was Matthew Timmons' idea, knobs all the way down, it just kind of lifts everything. And the Suite 8 has a kind of bright and bass-heavy voice with the mid-range being a little more flat, a little less gain. Suite 9 is the inverse of that, a little more gain and a little more mid-range, and they flow into each other. So Suite 9 hits Suite 8, so you can stack them and use one as a master, use one as a gain boost or whatever. And it just works really well, and it's quickly become one of our favorite circuits that we make. So here's Suite 8 with the more knob all the way down. It just adds a little crunchiness. As you turn that up, it's halfway. Starts to get a little gnarly. Here's all the way up. Now if we do Suite 9, we could crank the master volume on this one. Go halfway. All the way. So that's a lot of juice, but when it gets really fun is when you start using them together. So if you use both of them at noon. Suite 9. It's kind of in your face, but when it gets really fun is when your amp's doing more work. I play really loud. And this is like not even close to where I want to be. But with the amp cooking a little more. Turn that off. Let's give it a little more. How about? Shall we? Yeah. Here's Suite 8. Down just a bit. Turn both down. All right. It needs that kind of That's the airline drive. And I think that pretty much covers most things except the really weird stuff that nobody likes. But why don't we open it up to some questions, and I can plug things up, or we can try different guitars or whatever, do combinations of things. So yeah, who has a question?
What can you share about Herc 3?
I don't really have any details on it because every time we make a prototype, I hate it. So I'm, for those listening, he asked, what can I share about Herc 3, our live stream watchers. The Herculean is my favorite overdrive. And I think the internet kind of thought it's just a tube screamer, and it's not. It's like the heart of a tube screamer, but so is a Timmy, so is a Lightspeed. Sorry, I don't know if you knew that. But it lives in that realm, but everyone just labeled tube screamers. So it never sold how I wanted it to. When we did the D mod or the D style, which looked more like a Dumble thing and just had a hair more gain, people kind of dug it more because I think they took away that connotation that it's just a tube screamer. But V3, I don't really know what I want to do. I struggle with it because, we could go and throw the book at it and go like a Gladio and say we have multiple sides and multiple voices and all these switches and all this complexity, but at the end of the day, that's not really me. I mean, the Susmer Josep is a lot, and I like it, but that's not a pedal I would design for myself. And so that's where I'm kind of struggling. How do I re-release it where it's interesting, and people will say, oh, it's not just another X or Y, but also be true to what I want it to do. And we've just not hit on it yet. I've made a couple things that have boosts that go pre and post, that have a multitude of clipping options. And while sometimes they sound really good, I play them and just go, bleh. And that, if that happens, then that immediately goes on the shelf. And there's so many things that I've made, and Jeff can attest to everyone else going, no, I think it's pretty good. And I'm, but yeah, it will see the light of day again whenever I figure out what it's going to be. So Any other questions? So what's weird stuff that you're not showing? Oh no, none of that stuff's too weird. I mean, the positron collider's over there, which will be back around for Halloween. That's my Ghostbuster-inspired fuzz pedal. That's the blackout golden fleece. Thank you, Jeffrey. But there's a lot of really weird stuff at home. There's things that we thought would just be a fuzz that go octave down. There's things that we thought would sound good and don't. There's a lot of that. There's vibratos, there's the Univibe, there's all sorts of things. And
you still working on Univibe?
yeah. No, I haven't given up entirely, and that's the thing. And it's a double-edged sword, and this is something I talked to Josh Scott about. It's like you have to know when to keep your mouth shut, because the moment you say, "Oh, I'm working on this," and everyone goes, "Can I buy that?" And you're like, no, this could be a year. This could be 2 years. I mean, the Oracle, for example, I hired a designer. We came up with a circuit. It was, not many people have seen it. There was a YouTube video, and I pulled it down, where it was basically like an Echoplex preamp. It had a preamp. It had modulation. It had all the controls. It had subdivisions. It had taps. It was digital. And right after I spent thousands of dollars buying the parts to make a very small initial run, I was playing it in front of my Deluxe Reverb, which is, you know, our basic test amp. It's the most honest, you know, this is a beast that is a bit unfair to throw pedals in front of, because it's hard to make it sound bad. The Deluxe Reverb is something that everyone kind of has an ear that they can relate to. And I had it in front of that, and there was this whine that was just permeating the pedal, and I couldn't get rid of it. And I asked the designer, he said, "I don't hear it." I said, "Well, I do." And so thousands and thousands of dollars of circuit boards and components are still in my garage because it just wasn't good enough. And there's a lot of things that I come up with that could, so many people would have bought that pedal, and it probably would have done okay, but every time I would box one up, I would know it's not good enough. And I hate that, to think that something that, because, you know, I have people helping me, but all of Mythos is still me, and if I'm not proud of it, I can't let it go. I don't know how I got on this topic, but oh, wait, yeah. So, but anyway, the Univibe, it is coming. It's just, talk about something that's complicated to get right, because I'm such a snob, and all I want is to release something that sounds like the old ones I've played, because I've played quite a few, and there's a lot of bad Univibes, and I don't want to be one of them. So we got it working, and the chorus works. The vibrato, for some reason, doesn't work at all. And I don't know why, because it's just killing the wet signal, or the dry signal, or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. But hopefully, maybe next year, it's just gonna take its time. Yeah.
How far along is the digital fuzz?
Oh, no. No.
Now he's not going to release it.
That's right. Yeah. That's it. See, it was you. You're the one. I'm gonna call Red and be like, "Guess what? We're not making." No. The Broyles fuzz is in that limbo, because now that's a pedal that makes a weird sound. So for those that have not caught alive or any have seen any of my Instagram stories with that, so that pedal, essentially we took the Argonaut and a tone bender and put it together, and I thought, that sounds easy. And like, it was, until I put it in the box, and when you turn it on and you turn the gain past 3 o'clock, it turns into a theremin. It just oscillates, and all the other knobs change the pitch, and you can open it and push your finger on the board, and it goes, woo! They all love, I know, everyone says that. Until you get the one guy that's like, why is my thing broken? It's like, oh, it's not broken. But I think I've come up with a new tone bender circuit that is not, this is not even a super traditional take on it, because it's silicon and it's repeatable, which a lot of tone benders aren't, and that's why they cost $1,000 or whatever, which is ridiculous. But the thing about fuzz, and the thing you have to be the most careful of is it's probably not the circuit itself, it's the routing. And that's why you have guys that like Dumble and Two Rock that make an amp where when you open this up, it's a work of art because the wires are routed in a certain way. There's no oscillation, there's no crosstalk, there's no weirdness. And that Broyles fuzz, I'm running all the signal on the board with all that gain, and that is probably what's making it scream uncontrollably. You can hear the oscillation when the pedal's off. So the signal is so loud that it's bleeding from the input of the circuit to the input jack or the output jack and going out the pedal, which I don't understand how that is happening. So, what's that? Yeah, I guess. But I'm one of the things about me is I'm the kind of person that says, if everyone says, oh, have you seen this thing yet? Have you watched this movie yet? Have you played this thing yet? The more and more people talk about it, then I just never want to see it. And so the Broyles fuzz is slowly becoming that. Even though I bought all the enclosures, and they're cool, they're super cool, they were very expensive, and they're sitting on a shelf, and I walk by them and just go, I don't know what to do. Yeah. But yeah, next question, anybody? Yeah.
Can you tell us like your start as a builder and like DIY and just what got you started on building pedals?
Sure. So I was broke, and I wanted a Klon, and couldn't afford a Klon. And well, back I think when this happened, Klons were like $700, which, man, well it is. But now they're like, Brian saw a gold one sell for $7,000. So, but anyway, I had started by modding pedals. I got Brian Wampler's book, which is I think it came out in like 2005 or 6. And my hobby on the weekends when I was in college was going to music stores and buying used Boss or Ibanez or whatever, and I would mod them and then flip them on eBay and try to make enough money to where I covered the pedal and then enough to get something else and just keep moving up. And I did that for a couple years, and then I bought a fuzz face and it turned into a radio because you just stepped on it and the transistors failed and they just picked up radio frequency. So it was literally an AM radio at that point. You could like change. It was weird. And I opened it up and I said, well, there's only like 7 parts in here. Surely I can make that. And I ordered all the parts from Small Bear Electronics, which still exists. And I built one, and it worked. And that was, the moment where I thought, well, maybe I could do this just for myself. And years go by, and I wanted to make a clone for myself. And I had a buddy that said, well, if you're going to make one, make me one. And I did. And I bought water slide decals like for a model and printed up. I came up with, at first, mythological pedals. And I had a friend that said, that's dumb, call it Mythos, because that's Greek for myth. And I said, that's actually kind of cool. And so came up with the Zeus logo, printed it on there, gave one to my friend, and that was the moment where I thought this could be kind of cool. And went around guitar stores and local players and stuff. And this was when I lived in Sparta, Tennessee, which is a really, really small town. Oh, there's an early one. That's not quite what they look like later, but they kind of started like that. And so I was buying circuit boards and making them myself. But fast forward, I would people would start to get into it, and then I would give up. And that happened a lot because it would get hard. And so I kept pushing, and then I'd get burnout. And around 2015, I was living in Nashville, building pedals for fun. I gave one to Rob Chapman. I gave one to Joey Landreth. And my now wife said, you know, you're kind of good at this. Why don't you try it? And so I did, and I went to the bank, and I put $1,000 in a separate bank account, and I said, if this dries up, then I'm done. I'm not going to try this again. I'm just going to do it for myself, and I'm never going to try to sell another thing to anyone else. And I'm still doing it. So that was, I mean, the short answer, which is very long. You have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, you mentioned with the shortages for chips for the delays and stuff, what are pedal builders doing to sort of prevent that, or are there good ways to, is it going to take innovation to get around that, or what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, so a lot of people are just adopting digital. The most common chip is called a spin chip, FV1 chip, and that is what most people are using, which is it's got a really easy programming language. You can use a lot of processing power to do something simple, but it's still digital. So the analog thing, we're all just kind of scratching our heads because the companies that make these, there's only two. And if they stop, or like, for instance, the company Cool Audio, who makes the chips for this, which is Behringer, one of their brands, they just say, we won't sell you any, we can't. And I don't know if that's because they're hoarding them all for their little $15 delay pedals, which if that's the case, I'm going to buy every $15 delay pedal I can find. But what everyone's doing is just panic buying, which I think is I mean, it's like what happened with the tubes, and the price of tubes went astronomical. So it's not just with the hard-to-find parts like chips, which are always expensive and hard to get. It's everything. DC jacks, the in and out jacks. You know, I buy from the same suppliers that, you know, JHS and Earthquaker and all those guys buy from, and you'll see, oh, there's only 1,000 left, and they're not going to get restocked till the middle of 2023. And you just go, and then you panic buy, and then, you know, it's a double-edged sword, because then we're okay, but then all of my friends who are much smaller, they don't have anything. And, you know, it sucks, but it's kind of just the state of the world right now. So, but so far as what innovation, luckily most things are okay, and there's workarounds for overdrives and your basic circuits, fuzzes. You can still make fuzzes, but the delays and those things, we're just kind of waiting to see what's coming next. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
A while back, you guys, I think one of the main years you did was used a G transistor. You ever gonna bring that one back out?
The Mjolnir?
Yeah.
So the No, most of the diodes that I'm using in the Mjolnir, I was buying from the Ukraine or Russia, which I don't know if you guys have watched the news lately, but it's kind of hard to get stuff from there. So I have a good stock of all the stuff that we make for the Wildwood Mjolnir. I have I don't know 5,000 or so, and some of those will be bad. And all the other ones I have just random pieces, but sometimes I'll use those things just because I get a wild hair, but a lot of it is just I look at what I have and think, is this worth even bothering with? Because if Mass Street or whoever wants to buy all of them, can I get any more? And so sometimes it's often better to tweak a circuit using readily available parts so that it's repeatable. Because that, to me, is the ultimate thing, and the thing that where I differ the most from a lot of the guys making replica fuzzes and stuff like that use NOS parts. That's, you know, there's a finite supply of that, and thinking in those terms for me is not viable, because I have to take care of, you know, rent, my family, pay Jeff, pay McKinley, and so I'm trying to always be cognizant of that. But yeah, but who knows? I have quite a stash, so some things may come back out. So, any other questions? Yeah.
There was a guy watching the live stream that was wanting to hear what the tube of copper sounded like with an argon on it.
With an argon. All right. it's not plugged in. Ah! Okay. Chupacabra. Forgot that this doesn't have a neck pickup. And octaves usually are better with a neck. That's that. My favorite, using this combination, another copyright strike is if you're playing I don't know what they did. He had some sort of ring modulator, but it goes for like this like a half a bar. That's my favorite use of that pedal. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just put it at the front, just to keep it, just for building the board. Really, it's one of those things, and like pedal order in general, I get messages about it all the time, and to me, it's as long as it sounds good, just use it that way. So long as it's not affected by something in front of it, like a buffer. But the Argonaut kind of works everywhere. I typically like it after a fuzz, but before an overdrive. So I just did it this way because it's just easiest. So, but yeah, it kind of, the only pedals that we make that don't like being after a buffer are any of the Golden Fleece variations, the AU, the High Road, the normal Golden Fleece. Airlane doesn't really like being after a buffer, but it's kind of okay. Cool. Yeah, it does an octave down thing. But everything else kind of can live anywhere. So, yeah.
And all those pedals clean up with your volume, so the buffer kind of messes with it.
Yeah, the buffer really, it adds noise and with a fuzz after it when the fuzz is on, and it ruins that interplay because the thing that one thing I want everything to do, even if like we go, let's go kind of crazy for a second, and turn a bunch of gain on. We'll have. So that's three overdrive pedals, and there's a lot of hiss, right? But I want it to still live here and here. So I want everything that we make to play well together and just be kind of stackable. I mean, the fuzzes are an outlier in that, but the overdrives especially, I want them to still live in your guitar and respond to you as a player. So, does that about do it? And we still have some stuff to give away. I don't know when we'll do that. We might do that when the cameras are off, so no one feels bad for not being here. Yeah, any more questions? Any last questions? Yeah.
So aside from buffer versus not buffer, do you guys ever do any sort of designs that are like specifically designed for playing with a Telecaster or playing with a certain type of amp?
No, and that's really kind of against my ideas as a designer. I know I have a very typical setup. I'm usually like a humbucker guy. But whenever I when I design something, unless it's something I'm familiar with, I'll give it to Jeff to take home, who plays a Strat. We'll bust out this, which has the Tele bridge thing, and we try it through every permutation of amp, because if there's something where it's just extraordinarily bad, then I might go back to the drawing board, or at least think about how to tweak it so that it could come stuff better. Because the last thing that anyone wants to do is get something, plug it up to their setup, and go, you know, because that's so deflating, and it kind of goes against my whole design philosophy. So I don't tend to design for one thing specifically, even if it's like the Chupacabra trying to encapsulate a ZZ Top sound. I've had more people say it sounds better with a Tele than with a Les Paul, which, you know, it should ideally sound better with a Les Paul because it's a ZZ Top thing. So luckily, it kind of works. Yeah, anything else? Yeah.
What did you do different with the 87.9 to get it to clean up? Did you just go with the lower gain transistor?
No. So how these circuits work, how that circuit works, is a single transistor, right? And you are if you imagine the transistor like here, right? The circuit's coming in and it goes out the top, and when it goes where it goes down and connects to ground, that's kind of like setting the gain range. That's your gain knob. And if you introduce a cap there, it will kind of max out what the transistor does. And so in the AU79, we just take that cap away. So we have more control over how much available gain there is, so it's not kind of maxed out from the start. So the Golden Fleece has that cap in the AU, which is based on the very first Golden Fleece I made, which didn't have it. We just took it away so that the transistor is not amplifying as much, ergo not clipping as much. Yeah.
The Golden Fleece cleans up great.
Yeah. They all clean up well, but the AU, the Golden Fleece, if it's at 10, the AU's at 8, sort of thing. But yeah. Okay. Yes.
So on the 6-Mary SF,
Yeah.
the booster, does the switch just control input capacitors?
That's
or
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's,
I was wondering if you had like different filters going on or anything.
no, it is, we took the Germanium Rangemaster circuit, and I just said, well, because Germanium is typically a positive ground. All the grounds are flipped. That's why you can't daisy chain them, because it'll invert the power. So we flipped everything, put in a different transistor, and it worked. And yeah, the thing that we're doing with that is just like what we did with 1347 by lowering that input cap. A treble booster, why it's treble boosting is the stock cap is really small. And what it's doing is adding caps in parallel on top of that, because with resistors, parallel divides, but with capacitors, parallel adds. So we're essentially having it just the one cap, or adding a little bit of a bigger cap, or a really big cap, which lets low end through and adds that fatness. So, yeah. Anything else? Maybe one day. Collaborations are so hard because anybody can say, oh, I have an idea and we should do it together. But then it goes, well, who's getting paid? Who's going to make it? You know, all that stuff. So that's where it gets tricky, because Nick Greer and I have talked about it. Josh and I have never really talked about it. I'm sure he'd be interested, but at the same time, they're like, oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, no. You know, maybe one day we'll see a collaboration with somebody like MXR. You know, we've done the Timmy, and supposedly they're doing an Analog Man thing. I don't know. It leaked on the Gear page. Maybe one day something like that will happen. But no plans as of yet. So, anything else? Is that me? All right. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we got some giveaways.
Yeah. Should we get a hat or something? What do we got?
Yeah.